The NBA's play-in tournament is set to kick off tomorrow, May 18th, and there are going to be some great matchups and some matchups that I know a lot of people are looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to talking about it in today's episode. And if you are listening to this on any podcasting platform, wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure to leave a review. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video, and let's get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, we have finally made it to playoff basketball. I know. It's been a while. It's been a while since we have seen playoff basketball. The last time we all watched playoff basketball is when we were all wondering even if there was going to be a playoffs. And of course, the NBA came up with the idea with the bubble. And in that time, when they came up with the idea of the bubble, they also came up with a thing called the play-in tournament, and that is what we are going to be talking about today. And what the play-in tournament basically does is allow teams that are maybe, at the bottom of the standings and 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th seeds that are trying to fight for their spot in the playoffs. And here we are today talking about the play-in tournament, and these games are going to be starting tomorrow. And then after that, there's going to be 2 more games. So 2 games tomorrow and then 2 games on Wednesday. And I know a lot of people are looking forward to these games because we have some very, very interesting matchups and some matchups that are going to really be telling to how these teams play and their skill and their ability and everything, their roster. And some teams are going to be crushed, and some teams are going to move on to the next round and be able to actually get into the playoffs. This whole scenario, this whole tournament is just to get into the actual tournament, which is the actual playoff bracket. So we're not really there yet, but this is basically playoff basketball. This is the intensity. This is everything that we wanted for so long, because we all know the regular season doesn't matter. And if you want to hear my opinion on that, I did an episode. The last episode I posted was about, does the regular season in the NBA matter? And I went into a deep dive into all of that. So if you want to go check that out, go ahead. But today we're actually going to be diving into the matchups and everything that's going to be going on. So, like I said, 2 games tomorrow, and those games are going to be within the Eastern Conference. So we have 2 matchups. We have the Pacers versus the Hornets, the 9th versus the 10th seed, and then we have Boston versus the Wizards. Now, before we get started, if you don't understand how this play-in tournament works, the 7th seed of each respective conference is going to play the 8th seed, and then the 9th seed is going to play the 10th seed. So Wizards, Boston, and then Hornets and Pacers. And how it works is, if the Wizards beat the Celtics, right? So say, for example, the Wizards beat the Celtics, they will move on into the playoffs and be the 7th seed in the playoffs. So they will play whoever the second seed is right now, who I'm pretty sure is Brooklyn. So I know, obviously, a lot of people probably want to see Westbrook versus Brooklyn. And honestly, I kind of want to see that too, because I want to see KD and Westbrook square off. So I know a lot of people are looking forward to what the Wizards can do going forward, and if they can possibly beat Boston, then they can move on and play then they can go ahead and play the 76ers. And then the same thing with Boston. If the Celtics beat the Wizards, then they're going to move on and play they're going to go on and play Kyrie, KD, and James Harden over there. And then if the Pacers beat the Hornets, they don't just move on to the playoffs. They have to play another game. And that game is going to be the loser of the Wizards versus the Celtics. So if the Celtics lose to the Wizards, they have to play the winner of the Pacers-Hornets game. And then the winner of that game goes on to be the 8th seed, will play the Philadelphia 76ers. I know it's very confusing. I know it sounds complicated. But I think as we go on and as we watch these games and see how the brackets lined up and everything, I think it'll make a lot more sense. But with that being said, let's talk about the predictions and talk about what I think what I think is going to happen in these games. And like I said, the first matchup is Pacers versus Hornets. So I know a lot of people aren't familiar with these teams, and a lot of people just follow maybe the higher teams, the higher seeds, so they don't really know what's going on at the bottom. But both of these teams honestly have been average all season, which is why they're in the place they are. Obviously, we all know LaMelo is on the Hornets, and he's had a Rookie of the Year type year, but he did suffer an injury to his wrist, which has kept him out for about 30%, 30 to 40% of the year. So he's still not like 100%, I guess you could say, or he's still not playing at his best at his Rookie of the Year level. But at the same time, he has played well enough to get this team in a position to be the 10th seed and to have an opportunity to make the playoffs. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have the Indiana Pacers, who honestly were playing a lot better at the start of the year with Sabonis. They did make a trade. They traded away Oladipo, and they ended up getting Karis LeVert. And when Karis LeVert first joined the team, obviously people were excited. He was playing really, really well in Brooklyn, so people were expecting him to, keep his rhythm going in Indiana. But they found out he had a heart condition, which kept him out for a while, a very long time. But he's back in the starting lineup, and he's playing really, really well. He's playing at a tremendous level, same level he was playing at when he was starting with Brooklyn. So honestly, the Pacers, if you look at it on paper, the Pacers have the better team and have the better roster. And personally, I do think that the Pacers have the better momentum, have the better talent, and honestly have better coaching going forward. And if you look at the last 5 games that the Hornets have played, they haven't won any. They've lost their last 5 straight games. They've lost their last 5 games. So I don't see a scenario where the Hornets have been able to been on a streak, had some momentum leading up to this game. So they don't even have any momentum leading up to this game. They have LaMelo Ball, who's not at 100%, and they really don't have any other outstanding talent on the roster to carry the team besides LaMelo. Um, I know they have Gordon Hayward, but he hasn't been the same in years. Obviously, we know that. I know they have Miles Bridges, Devontae Graham, but these guys are role players. These guys aren't people. These guys aren't gonna help the team blow out another team, or aren't gonna help really change the dynamic of the game. But I feel like if you look at it from the Pacers' perspective, Sabonis is somebody that could change a game. Sabonis is somebody that could drop 25 points and 20 rebounds in a game, and I'm pretty sure he's done it before. Karis LeVert is somebody that can drop 20, 30 on a night easily if he really wants to. And in these games, it's not about who's had the most chemistry. It's not about who's had, you know, and it's not about anything like that. It's about who has the most talent. And in one game where you need to win, where you have to win, and you need a bucket, Sabonis and Karis LeVert, those guys are going to get you your bucket. And there's no like if you lose this game, you get a second chance like in the seventh and eighth seeded game. If you win this game, you got to go and win another game. And how I see it set up is the Pacers to me have the better talent, have the better coaching, and I forgot to mention Terry Rozier on the Hornet side of things. He's had a few good games this year, but when it really comes down to it, I do think that the Pacers will outplay the Hornets and move on to the next round and play the loser of Boston versus the Wizards. And with that being said, let's talk about the Celtics playing the Wizards. So leading up to this game, we know that Jaylen Brown will not be playing. He's out for the season. He had an injury happen to him, so he won't be playing this game, and he won't be playing even if the Celtics move on. He won't be playing anytime in the playoffs. But as we all know, the Wizards, man, they have been playing absolutely outstanding. Westbrook has been on a tear, triple double king, most triple doubles in history. He's averaged another year of averaging a triple double. Beal, from like the start of the year till the All Star break, was potentially the MVP of the league, potentially the best player in the league. So these two guys combined, I don't know if anybody can stop them, and even the Celtics. We know how good Jason Tatum is, but other than that, we know how good Kemba Walker can be. But has he been that? I don't think he has been that. Jason Tatum on any given night, can he drop 40 points? Yes, but can Tatum dropping 40 points combat Westbrook's triple double, Westbrook's 30-point performance, or Beal's 40-point performance? But also, we have to keep in mind that Beal had some recent injury news, and he will not be at 100% leading into this game either. So I don't know if that's going to have a massive effect on how the Wizards have been playing. But We know what the Wizards are capable of doing, and we know what they have done in the last six games. They've won 4 of them, so they have the momentum. They have they've been playing well leading up to this game, whereas the Celtics have only won 1 game in the last 6. So in the last week or so, the Celtics have only managed to win 1 game without Jaylen Brown. So this is the lineup without Jaylen Brown. This is the lineup that we're going to see tomorrow. But whereas the Wizards have been on a tear and have been winning games and have had the momentum and have been playing well, and I do think even if Beal was not at 100%, I do think that Westbrook has enough willpower in him, has enough to do, has enough skill, has enough talent, has enough everything, the intangibles. He has everything needed in order to carry this team. And we know the Wizards don't have the best roster in the world, but we know as long as Westbrook is playing and Beal is at least better than 50%, we know that this team is capable of pretty much doing anything in this playoffs. And we'll see what they do going forward, and we'll see what they do with this playoff run. And if they get an opportunity to play the Nets, I'm telling you right now, if they get an opportunity to play the Nets and Harden isn't 100% or Harden doesn't play this series, I honestly think the Wizards probably will take that series to 6 games because of just how they've been playing this year, the momentum they've had, and just like I said earlier, how Westbrook has been playing. He's been playing outstanding, better than you could argue him and Curry are probably been playing the best basketball in the past few months, and there's literally no debate in that. You could possibly say Jokic, he's been playing at an MVP level, but to me, Westbrook and Curry have been the best players in the past month or so. So I would have to give it to the Wizards to beat the Boston Celtics. So in the Eastern Conference, I picked the Pacers to beat the Hornets, which means the Pacers will be playing Boston. And I do also think that the Pacers will beat Boston and end up being the A seed. I just don't believe. We know how good Jason Tatum is. And I know that Jason Tatum has been playing at his best probably ever. But it's just hard when you don't have a second guy that has proven he can help you. He can provide some extra support. Kemba Walker has not proven that he can be that guy because he's been inconsistent all year. He's been struggling with injuries. He's been in and out of the lineup. So it's like it's hard to say that the Celtics can really make a run when the Pacers have been playing well. They have the guys to do it. They have the talent. They have Brogdon. They have LeVert. They have Sabonis, who should have been an all-star in my opinion, but wasn't. So I do think that the Pacers will move on and be the A seed and play the 76ers in the first round. And then I think the Wizards will beat Boston and end up playing the Brooklyn Nets in round 1. So that is the East predictions. And now let's get into the Western Conference. Now in the Western Conference, we have 2 more games. 2 more games, ninth and 10th versus 8 and 7, just like the Eastern Conference. But this time, we probably have the most anticipated game in the entire play-in tournament, and that is the Lakers versus the Golden State Warriors. All right, let's get into it. So, to me, the Lakers have to win this game, and I think the Lakers will win this game. And even if they don't win this game, it's not like it's the end of the world. I think people are making it seem like if the Lakers lose this game, they're not going to the playoffs. Because in my eyes, if the Lakers lose this game, they're going to win whoever they play in the next game. Because after this, they have to play the winner of the 9th versus 10th game between the Grizzlies and the Spurs. So to me, I think the Lakers will win this game, and that is because they have everybody on their roster. LeBron will be playing in this game. Anthony Davis will be playing this game. Dennis Schroeder is back from the COVID protocol. So to me, I feel like the Lakers out-talent the Warriors. I don't know about coaching. I think the Warriors still do have the better coach. Obviously, the Warriors have one of the best coaches in the league, and also they have one of the hottest players. Probably, in my opinion, the MVP of the league. I know a lot of people have their opinions on who the MVP should be, but to me, it should be Steph Curry, and he is on the Warriors, and he's been playing probably the best basketball out of anybody in the past month or two. But it's just hard for me to pick the Warriors when the Warriors lack so much talent compared to what the Lakers have. And I know what the Warriors have been able to do this season with the players that they have. They're the A seed of the league. So it's not like they've been playing horrible. But to me, it's like how much can Curry really do against a team that is fully loaded, a team that has all their resources available. It would be different if the Lakers didn't have Anthony Davis, or if the Lakers didn't have LeBron James in this game, or if Drummond wasn't playing or something like that. But no, the Lakers have Anthony Davis and LeBron James, who are potentially 2 of the top 5 best players in the league. They have Drummond, who's one of the best rebounders in the game. No, he's not an elite scorer, but he's a great rim protector. They have Montrezl Harrell and Marc Gasol on the bench, and those two players alone could be starters on not on 80% of the league's teams. It could be starters on the Warriors right now. Harrell and Gasol could be amazing starters for the Warriors right now, and they're on the Lakers bench getting almost no minutes. Marc Gasol is playing like 10 minutes a game, and I don't even know if Montrezl Harrell was played in the last 2 or 3 games. They obviously have Kuzma, who plays the bench role. He plays it well. He's been coming off the bench doing his thing. He started a few games, obviously, because of the recent injuries of LeBron and Anthony Davis. And then Taylor Horn Tucker. They had their full roster at their disposal. Dennis Schroeder's going to be back. He'll be starting at the point, or he'll be coming off the bench. However, Frank Vogel wants to design the offense or design the lineup. But the Warriors just don't have the talent. They just don't have the ammunition to beat the Lakers, in my opinion. Steph Curry will do what Steph Curry does. He will score 40 points. He will score 50 points. But what is Draymond going to do? What is Jordan Poole going to do? He's going to come off the bench and do nothing. Draymond is not a scorer. He's not going to provide any. Yes, he does the other stuff well. He rebounds well. He steals well. He blocks well. He does all that. But what else can Curry do to put this team in the best position? And don't get me wrong. I think if the Warriors lose this game, I believe they'll go on to the next, whoever they play next, and they'll win. So with that being said, the Grizzlies and the Spurs are playing each other. And in my opinion, I do think the Spurs will win that matchup. And it comes down to this. When you're playing an elimination game where it comes down to one game, talent really can overpower anything else that is going on. And both of these teams don't really have great momentum. They haven't been playing great as of late. The Warriors just beat the Warriors literally just beat the Grizzlies in order to get this A seed. But to me, I don't think the same situation with the Warriors and how great Curry is playing, but I don't think it's enough for them to beat the Lakers. It's the same thing with the Grizzlies. In terms of coaching, we all know Greg Popovich has been in this position so many times. He's probably one of the most well-prepared coaches in this entire playoff setting. Out of all the coaches, he's probably the most prepared because of the amount of times he's been in the playoffs and the amount of times he's had these elimination scenarios. So he knows what it takes to be in the scenarios. Another guy, DeMar DeRozan, he knows what it takes to win in these games. He's done plenty of it with the Raptors, and he's been in this situation. He knows the pressure. He knows what it takes. DeJounte Murray has played his role well with the Spurs and has been able to provide a lot for them. But for the Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr. is back, but we don't know if he really is the guy he was before he got hurt. And we know Valanciunas is Valanciunas. He's not going to score 20, 30 points a game. He might get you like 15 points and 10 rebounds, but he's not going to do anything else but that. And they have other guys on the roster that play their roles well. But are the Dylan Brooks on this team going to be able to carry or going to be able to provide some assistance to take the pressure off of Ja Morant's shoulders? And in my opinion, I don't think that's the case. And maybe that's happened at some point in this year. But Ja Morant is still a second-year player. He's still a guy that's inexperienced and has not really been in this situation often. And to me, when you have Greg Popovich and DeMar DeRozan, two guys that have been in this situation multiple times in their career, you can't count them out and you can't say that they're not capable of handling it. And because of that, I think the Spurs will move on to the next round. But I do think that the Warriors will eliminate them. And then the Warriors will end up being the A seed, playing the Jazz, I believe. And then the Lakers, I think, are going to beat the Warriors. They just have too much on their roster. I don't think that the Warriors have enough to beat LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Curry is good, but Curry cannot do it at this level. I'm sorry. I know Curry has had some great games, but when you're a one-man show, when you're a one-man team, basically. At this point, Curry's a one-man team. We've seen the performances he's put up. He's a one-man team. The Warriors literally don't have anything else on their roster to combat what the Lakers have. And I don't mean to say like how I said earlier, like Curry can't do it at this level. Obviously, Curry can do it at any level. He's one of the best players in the league and the MVP of the league, in my opinion. But when it comes to playing the Lakers, when you have LeBron James, like I said, who has been in this position, Anthony Davis, who has been in this position, you have to go with the guys that are experienced and the guys that have been here. And yes, Curry has been here too. And yes, Draymond has been there too. And yes, Curry has been there too. But what about the other guys on the roster? And they're going to have to pick up their slack and they're going to have to carry some weight and do something in order to help the Warriors advance to the next round. But I'm not counting the Warriors. I'm saying they'll go to the next round after they play the Lakers. So for the Eastern Conference, I said the Pacers would go through, and I said the Wizards would go through, and the Boston would end up playing the Pacers, which means, and then I said after that, the Pacers would move on to the next round, and the Pacers would end as the 8th seed, and I believe the Wizards will end as the 7th seed. The Spurs playing the Grizzlies. I picked the Spurs to win this just because of experience, just because of the guys that they have on the roster, the talent they have on the roster, and John Morant is the same thing, one man team. I don't see anyone else really helping the Grizzlies move on forward, and because of that, I think they will lose to the Warriors after the Lakers beat the Warriors. So I have the Lakers beating the Warriors, and then the loser of that game will play the winner of the Spurs. I'm sorry. I messed this up. So the Spurs are playing the Spurs versus the Grizzlies. I believe the Spurs will beat the Grizzlies, which means the Spurs will play the Warriors, and I believe the Warriors will beat the Spurs. I know the play-in tournament is so complicated. I know a lot of people look at the scenarios and look at the brackets and are just like really really confused. And especially when you're hearing somebody talk about it, it's very confusing. But if you literally saw it right in front of you, it would make a lot of sense. So Spurs versus Grizzlies. I think the Spurs will move on. Lakers versus Warriors. The Lakers will move on and they will automatically become the 7th seed. And then the Warriors will have to play the Spurs. And I think the Warriors will beat the Spurs and advance as the 8th seed and play the Utah Jazz. And the Lakers will advance and play the Phoenix Suns. And I'm not going to get too in depth with the full bracket, like 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, because I'm going to save that for after the play-in tournament is finished. So once the play-in tournament is finished, then I'll give the predictions for the entire playoff bracket. And there's going to be some interesting takes because I believe a lot of teams are very overrated. And I believe there's some teams in that bracket that are going to be underrated. But that will be the end of this episode of the Clocked In Podcast. Like I said earlier, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like the video. I'm out. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.